You'll get tangled in the wires at some point.
Okay, so we're now live on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are a subscriber, then you've got a notification bell saying that we are now live. We give this a couple of minutes just to kind of give you an update of what's happening in terms of the website, in terms of the podcast, in terms of all the bits and pieces that are going on with an Englishman in San Diego, and also give you the chance to get onto the Q&A as well. Jump in with any of your comments, your questions, anything that you want to talk about later on. We will be getting into... Have we got cats? Let's just quickly go over to Ian and Nikki. Have we got cats just kind of like getting in the way?
No. Just gone underneath the table. We're all right.
That's what cats do. It's great. But we've got Andrew English who's joining us. Hello there, watching from London. You see, we were talking about this before we came, before I hit live. Possible 5 straight cons from next weekend. Yeah, that would do it. So you've got Bromley, Destination Star Trek, MCM London, Wales Comic Con, and Worthing Wormhole. Worthing Wormhole?
That sounds fun.
That does sound fun.
That's a new one to me. I don't know that one. That last one. Okay. So, well, best of luck with that, Andrew. Hopefully you'll survive by the end of that particular run. Yeah, you're going to catch me. I'm hoping to get to Wales Comic Con. Hopefully I'm going to be speaking to James. He's going to sort me out with some kind of press badge because I know it's completely sold out at this point. Destination Star Trek, I think I'll be heading on the Friday for the press day. And yes, I will be at MCM London doing my hosting thing. I will be finding out on Tuesday what my hosting details are going to be, even though I would love to do the History of Batman panel with Frank Miller, Azzarello, Jimmy Comiotti, Amanda Connor, Tim Sale, and all of that. But I suspect that DC Comics may have something to say about that. I think they're going to get their own body in on that particular one. So yeah, we're going to be lots of cons on the way. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that later on in the show. Also, we're going to be talking about the SDCC pre-registration as well. All the changes that have been implemented with that. That happens next Saturday, of course. So we'll be talking about the preparation for that. Also, going to hopefully find someone who's going to join us at the back end of the show to give us a little bit of a live report from New York Comic Con, which has been quite the event this weekend, happening at the Javits Center. Lots of stuff that have been revealed at this particular con, which I'm a big fan of active news conventions where they actually reveal stuff at them, not just trailers but actual comic lines, comic releases. So lots of stuff coming out of New York Comic Con. We'll get into those a little bit later, but we are now at the top of the hour, which means I can go over to Mixler. If you are not wanting to stare at my ugly mug for 45 minutes, by all means you can listen along. Go to mixler.com/EnglishmanSDCC, and that's where I will hit live. Now, welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. It's our live show each and every Sunday where we talk cons, comic conventions, pop culture conventions, and all the stuff and nonsense, the culture that goes on around these shows. We have a lot of fun where we talk about the shows that are coming up and also look back at some of the shows that have happened recently and also what's happening right now, because we have a number of conventions that are taking place, including the massive New York Comic Con, which is happening in the Javits Center in the Big Apple right now. But the other big thing about the show as well, we also have some great guests, and we'll introduce joining us to talk about Kendal, the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, coming up next. Don't forget, if you do want to jump in on the Q&A, any questions that you want to put to our guests, or indeed anything that you want to raise later on in the show, do jump in on that. And of course, if you want to continue to support us here on the show, please head to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. What I would usually be announcing at this point is that, yes, after the show, we will be going directly to the Patreon live stream. So we have a kind of like a post-show after party. Not this week. Why is that? Ian will tell you, because he's been giving me nothing but grief all week about why the timing of this particular hangout is not great for nerds or for myself. Yes, the 13th Doctor.
I was about to say Coronation Street, but you know.
You know what? My knowledge of Coronation Street extends to literally the first 2 seconds of the theme tune and then the click of the remote. I'm proud to be a non-soap watcher, so I'm particularly happy about that. But no, obviously it's Doctor Who. It's the 13th Doctor, and it kicks off in about 45 minutes' time. we may make this a slightly truncated show. Let's put it this way. I can see whatever numbers we get on our viewer count is just going to crater at 1:45 as everyone disappears to watch Doctor Who. I appreciate entirely that because I want to see it myself. So which means let's just dive in straight with our main interview for today then. We have ourselves 2 people joining us. We were going to be having 3, but Julie Tate, who is the creator and director of the Lakes International Comic Art Festival in Kendal, has come down with a case of the lurgy. This is not the great time to do it.
This is the worst time.
1 week before. Oh my word. So yeah, it's unfortunate that Julie's not able to join us this time round, but we are joined by Ian and Nikki, who are the hosts of the Comic Art Fest Prod. It's the official.
Do we prod people?
Let's just prod. No, it's a terrible link. Terrible link. Okay. But we are joined by Ian and Nikki, who are the hosts of the podcast, the official podcast for Lakes. Hello there. How are you guys?
Hello. Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Preparing for the week ahead.
I know.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's all down to all this time and all this preparation that goes in, and then it all just kind of runs at you at once in the final stretch. So it's, I'm glad that you've got the time to come and join us today, especially considering that Nikki, you're not feeling too hot yourself.
There's a lot of, it could go Blackadder at any minute and I'll put things up my nose just to stop the snot.
There's a mental image you needed. So once again, if you do want to listen along to this, I mean, I was saying to Ian, if it gets to the point where there's this bowl of hot water and a towel where you just kind of can't make your contribution from underneath, I think I totally accept and I appreciate that.
Get the Vicks quick.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I think the first thing is for people to be introduced to yourself. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your time and your contribution to Lakes, please.
Okay, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Right? Go for it.
So, as I said, my name is Ian. We've been doing a podcast now for approximately 2 years, coming up for it, roughly. We'd podcast previously for a podcast called House of Geek, which is, rest in peace now, died and gone to podcast heaven. Previous to that, when the podcast first started, I was working for Game, and Julie Tate, the festival director, who can't make it today again, the illness has taken her too, was wanting to get the town involved. Now, Kendal's quite an interesting town where it seems to get involved with everything. You put an event on and the whole town gets involved some way, shape or form. And a lot of it is to do with Julie and the way she promotes the events that she does and the way she drives the events that she does. And she just came with this idea. It was actually her son's idea to create a festival based on comics, which is just nuts for starters, just to randomly decide this.
That must have been a very interesting dinner table conversation. You know, Mum, comic convention? Yeah, why not?
It probably was.
And most people would just bat it off, but not Julie. No, she just went and did it. And then she was sort of searching for sponsors, helpers, and obviously Game being a big company is ideal to get involved as a manager. You want your store to get involved. So that year we dressed up, did the usual stuff, competitions, this, that, and the other. Moved away for a few years, came back and thought, you know what, we want to do a bit more than the usual podcast. We want to do something different. And so we thought we'll put ourselves forward to do a podcast for the festival, because the festival itself is just so big and so vibrant and so different to a lot of other conventions out there, because it pulls in so many different creators, not your Marvel, your DC, such different creators from around the world that it's just been brilliant to chat to them all, really. To me, it's been great.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, because I think the reason why I've been a big advocate for the Lakes Festival is because it's a different flavour to any convention I've ever been to. I mean, it's very difficult to actually say the word convention, or I mean, I know it's festival in the title, but even that doesn't quite cover what Lakes gets up to. And considering that it does cross over into the comic convention sphere, all the people that they get in terms of your own interest then, because the great thing about the podcast that you run, it does get all these amazing creators involved. These fantastic comics and artist creatives. Is that something that has come off the back of the festival, or is it? Did you know these people beforehand? Was it something that you were kind of like?
Yeah, so I know all the big names.
Yeah,
Yeah, none of them.
all these rock stars that you know. Do you want to drop a few names?
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely down to the festival. That festival branding, which had been going on for 3 years before we got involved with the podcast, is so strong with these creators that you just have to send an email and
they just jump on
and
it.
they just jump on it amazingly. The most exciting one I think we had in the early days was Ian Livingstone, wasn't it? That was amazing. You start this podcast based on comics, and you don't think Ian Livingstone, the god of role-playing gaming, Games Workshop, video games, is going to come onto your show.
He was lovely
to talk about a comic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's been a thrill. And then this year to have Ian Rankin.
Yes.
Again, not somebody you expect to come on to talk about comics on the show.
That was brilliant as well. Because I love his books. So that was like, I totally went to pieces.
We are well aware that without the backing of the festival, these people probably wouldn't be interested. You know, this brand of the festival is so strong, and it deserves to be.
Yeah,
it deserves to be.
I don't know.
I'm not trying to be. I don't get paid a penny for this. Why am I doing it?
I was just about to say, I don't know, because the one thing I've learned from doing this podcast, I mean, I know my place in the general sphere of things, and I know that you'd think to yourself, no one's going to, no, it's not. I'm not. All you have to do is just ask. Yeah. And the thing is, they like to talk, and they like to talk about themselves. So any opportunity they get is fantastic. So no, I totally understand sort of like getting the guest list that you have done, and that is certainly down to the appeal of the festival as well. Considering that, I mean, we're at year 6 now, I believe. Is it? It's the 6th year for the festival, yeah. And the one thing that I noticed, because I went from the 2nd year, and it seemed established from pretty much the word go. I mean, there was no kind of like slow build for this thing. It really was as a slick, professional looking. I mean, I know that's down to Julie and her history as a putting on events and putting on shows. But even so, when it comes to putting on a comic art festival, you kind of do have to gain the trust of this community, which is a little bit guarded. It's still a little bit guarded. They don't suffer fools. You kind of have to convince them of your earnest. And Julie certainly came out of the gate on that one. I mean, when did you start going to the festival yourselves?
Well, me, it was year 1.
You were there,
with being involved. In fact, the launch event, I mean, it says it all, doesn't it? The launch event was a 2000 AD night on the first Friday they ever did it with John and Carlos. Rest in peace. I mean, that launched the whole festival. That says it all to me. You know, those two icons of British comics.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see how the show's evolved from that first year to where we are now? I mean, because certainly in the last couple of years, it's had a very strong, consistent brand. There's no, I mean, obviously a show needs to grow and evolve and change. Certainly with the guests that it gets on, but certainly the way that the festival presents itself, it has a very distinct flavor to it. But how do you see it change, say, from that first one?
Just size, really. I mean, the old basic concept is still the same, of it being scattered around the town, having open areas that are free, paid events there as well. Not much has changed in that sense, but the size and the scale.
Yeah. It's a lot bigger again.
A lot bigger. Yeah. Again, they've extended the space for the sales tables as well. You know, it's grown just crazily already this year. But I think the biggest thing is every year, they have some of the same guests are there, but it's those guests that you've probably never heard of unless you're really into certain areas of comics. And it brings certainly for us, it brings so many new creators and so many new books our way just because of the creators they're finding. And I wouldn't probably have found them. I wouldn't know about half these creators that come out there. Yeah. And it's amazing. That's what really jumps out for me as being the best thing.
I also like the fact that it, like you say, it's right there in the name. It's the Lakes International Comic Art Festival. It certainly pulls in from different disciplines from across the entire spectrum and from across the globe. I mean, when I was last there, I know that the exhibition, there was a great Eastern and Japanese comic art exhibition upstairs. Some great anime artists that were invited, and to, like you say, you don't see these at many conventions, or indeed any conventions here in the UK. Would you say, I mean, what would you say is the thing that makes it distinct when it comes to other conventions? Because you do have down in the clock tower, which is up in the town hall of Kendal in the city centre, you have this great artist alley, which you would expect from a good sized convention here in the UK. But how do you, in the way that you see it, certainly I'd say from the outside, or the way that those shows curated, I mean, what would you how would you make it feel distinct for Kendal show?
Suppose because it's based on, and I cannot say the name of the French based festival. It's spread across the town, so you can imagine Kendal's a small town. You've got the Brewery Arts Centre, which is the events place, the cinema, the stage, and that's where they should do all the shows, the talks. Then you've got, as you said, the clock tower, where you've got 2 floors of artists. Now, the thing about this artist alley is it is 90% artists and creators. You've got the odd little shop there, page 45, and a few other shops, but it's majority new creators or existing creators selling the stuff, which is brilliant. And we particularly love going and chatting. Then you've also got the shopping centre that gets involved. So again, that's another place in the town.
It's for the kids, isn't it?
Kids
It's
centre.
the kids zone. So
completely free. So creators are showing off the stuff there. The library gets involved. You've got the town getting involved with windows. All artists can put all their art up in these windows to show off, and they create this trail to go around.
You've got the Wildman Gallery. The
galleries, you've got two galleries. You've got the museum and the Wildman Gallery showing off whatever theme they're set for that year. So that's the difference. It's everywhere. It's all around the town, as opposed to one convention centre, one tent, whatever you want to say. That's the difference. And
I also think it's incredibly well curated as well. In the way that the talent is being selected. But like you say, Julie, it did not come from a comics background, and she did rely very much on the patrons on that first couple of years to really establish the show. So you had Brian Talbot, and you also had Sean Phillips. Are they still the ones that kind of like funnel all of the talent to who is actually going to be appearing?
I'd say no. I mean, we're not involved in the running of the event, but I'd say no, not anymore. I'd say originally, it was Brian and Sean were the 2 main draws to bring creators. They're still involved, but Julie and Sharon and all the rest of the team, they're the ones now getting out there and learning who these creators are and pulling them in, and hearing from other people. Why don't you invite such and such, and they'll have a look at the work and get them on board. So no, it's moved way past Sean and Brian. They're busy doing their own stuff, let's be honest. Sean in particular never stops. So no, the whole team, and it's only a small team, really work hard, and they're the ones that pull this all together. I'd like to say we do it, but we do nothing. No.
So, I mean, who are you looking forward to? Because obviously the podcast will be available while the show is up and running, or festival is up and running. And you get the chance to speak to these creatives as well. I mean, who is on the guest list that's kind of caught your attention that you're looking for?
I've got my list right in front of me, so I can. There's that many people. I think first and foremost, just being able to meet some of the people we've spoken to. So Ian Rankin, Robbie Morrison, who I've never spoken to live, face to face. It'd be great to meet some. Joe Kelly, he was amazing.
So lovely.
So being able to meet Joe as well. But some of the others that jump out, we've got obviously Brian Talbot's there again. I've got my list here. Go on, you can read them.
No, because I don't know how to say his surname.
Guy Delisle, his work is amazing.
Yeah, love that.
Absolutely amazing. Any more?
Yes, I do. But I can't see those. Oh, obviously the McGarrys.
The McGarrys, yeah. Zoom Rockman. Now, we spoke to him last year, but he's really come out this year in the work he's been doing.
So it'd be quite interesting to see what he's going to be putting out there, actually.
And he's creating a room of hilarity, I suppose we want to say. It's going to be a dark, dirty room in the clock tower that Zoom Rotman is putting forth.
With like grey candy floss.
Obviously, majority of the years, Everington Brothers are there, but Lorenzo's got his exhibition there this year, which will be stunning. His Stransky exhibition, we're looking forward to that. So that's, if you're coming, that is one to go and not to miss, because he's amazing. But they're sort of the main ones, but the list is huge. That's a problem.
Cool. I mean, certainly for me as well, I'm a big fan of additional content at shows like Lakes and other conventions that have really taken on board what to do with panels and presentations. Lakes has always done something very special with that, because up in the Brewery Arts Centre, you've got some great theatre spaces which they turn into panel rooms, including that very ornate stage presentation that they put up with the sofa and the very warm colours, and it looks fantastic. I do know there's a slight change to the way that the festival is being run this year, and hopefully you can explain that, because certainly when I went a couple of years ago, the way that it worked was the clock tower was free, and a number of all the other sort of like ancillary bits were free, but you paid per panel, which was really good, because it allowed you to really know when to go to something. It really kind of nailed down individual panels. Is that changed slightly this year?
That changed last year.
Yes.
It's last year.
Yeah. So now you buy a pass, either Saturday or Sunday or weekend pass, and that allows you then to see any of the panels that are going on, as well as the events on Saturday night as well. The big reason for doing this was when you buy an individual ticket, it's so easy to think, right, well, I know that creator, I'll go and see that person. It's a no risk. I know what I'm getting. And people don't necessarily then take the chance to go and see these other creators, which, like I say, you'd never heard of, possibly. So by doing it this way, it means you buy your ticket for whichever day, and you can see, there's no risk, essentially. Go and see whoever, whatever event is going on throughout the day. Now, the clock tower is still free. The kids zone's still free. But the rest of it, once you get your pass, you can go around and see things as you wish and desire.
I mean, I think there's
a negative. There's too many things going on. Trying to fit everything in is crazy.
We haven't managed it.
No.
I mean, I think the pros and cons of the way that that's done. I mean, I really enjoyed the way that it was done individually, because if it sold out, you then knew that was something that was done and dusted. You went on and found something else in town to do, and you kind of like it. There was no real pressure then, so there was no people queuing up or lining up early or extra early for a particular panel, because they wanted to make sure they actually got into the room, because everyone had a ticket, so they showed up 20 minutes before, and it was all very nice and civilized. But I can appreciate, like you say, it's the introducing of additional content that people perhaps weren't familiar with. So no, I totally get that. I mean, is there any panels that you are wanting to see? Because I'm guessing that you don't get the chance to see too much.
No, we've got obviously passes for the whole weekend, and we only get to see 2 or 3 really. If we want to get the content that we want for our show, then we only get 2 or 3. So I mean, the first one's the Crime Lords, which is Ian Rankin on Saturday morning. Just going to hear him talking about. I think John Wagner's involved with that now as well. Which was a change to the original listing. So that one I think is the definite one. There's, as we were talking about, Guy Delisle, the audience with him, talking about, because his work is all about his travels. And one particular one that we enjoyed was his travels to North Korea, which was amazing to see what in graphical form what North Korea is like, and visiting it as someone staying there for months on end. So that'll be really interesting. Obviously, my favourite, Best to Kill or Be Killed, Sean Phillips. I just love his books. I fanboy. He lives around the corner, and I still fanboy over him.
Is he doing another chat and draw? Because that was something that he did with Stuart Immonen when I was the last time I went, and I know it was supposed to be a Stuart Immonen showcase panel moderated by Sean, and it ended up just the pair of them drawing and talking at each other. And it was a really fun way to kind of like have them just hang out.
Yeah, I
And,
don't know if there's that. I don't think
know.
Sean's doing any sort of running of events. Not that I've noticed, I must admit. You've got also another one. Alan Grant and John Wagner, A Game of Two Halves. That one sounds really interesting. That's on the Saturday still. Then, of course, another big one is the Traces of the Great War book launch, which is looking like a stunning anthology with so many creators involved in that as well.
Well, I'm going to get onto that next as well, because well, there's two things I want to quickly talk about, but certainly that one is something I want to get into. Number one, before just to backtrack, if you do get to spend any time with John Wagner, do it, because he is just such a top bloke.
And he doesn't do Skype interviews, so we need to grab him.
Tell me about it. I managed to get the chance to speak to him at ICE, and I held his spotlight panel. That was a lot of fun, but he's someone who he's at that point in his career now. It's like, no, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and damn the lot of you. He's just so down to earth. I bloody love it.
A little story about John. I'm going to put a little story about John Wagner now.
Go on.
First year of the festival, obviously, I helped with the events for the game, and to say thank you, Julian and Chris Medcalf, who runs the Clock Tower. Knowing I was a big 2000 AD fan, got John to come and visit me in my shop, which was amazing. So he just came in. Hello, Ian. Like, hello. So yeah, such a nice guy.
Excellent. What I want to talk about is the one of the featured sections of this year's festival, which is the celebration of war in comic art, or at least the celebration of the art form that makes a lot of that really examines the landscape of conflicts across the globe. I find that really interesting that the show kind of does look further back at those kind of things, and it's something that you've done before, or at least the festival's done before. I'm just wondering where that has come from. Where's that kind of linchpin of celebrating that particular form of creativity?
I think it's more to do with certainly Julie and the team's background in not just comics, but with art as a whole. So they're looking probably a lot differently to what some other festival organisers look at, because they aren't just always thinking comics. They're thinking art as a whole package, and linking with 1418 now.
1418.
Is it 1418? Can't recall. Yeah, 1418 now. The who are looking back at the war has allowed them to create this book, which is just superb. From obviously we've seen a few strips of it, and it is stunning so far. Yeah,
I also think I think as well also the festival also does a great job of looking not necessarily at just international comics, but also the British comics, and so like Battle and the Eagle and all the kind of like pre-superhero comics that the British landscape was made up of back in the 50s and 60s. And the festival does a great job of drawing that line and making that link between what's being done today in terms of comic art, and also that heritage of classic books. Sorry, excellent stuff. Don't forget, anybody. I am going to open this up to any questions that if you want to put them.
Be gentle.
Well, I mean, we could say be gentle, but considering that we got Amar Hassa, who is referring back to your statement about the podcast that you used to run, isn't dead. Apparently, it just went off to live in a farm in the country. So, if you want to go and visit the podcast, unfortunately, you can't anymore because it's so far away.
I like to think of it like skipping through the daisies now.
Oh God. Okay, right. Yeah, we are now anthropomorphizing a podcast. Excellent.
With my hamster.
Oh man. Let's move on. Yeah. Any questions? By all means, do jump in on as we go into any of your open questions for this. The other thing I wanted to talk about is about the way that the town really gets involved. And like you say, we opened that up earlier. Has there been any new additions to how Kendal is getting involved this year?
as I say, the Shakespeare Centre, which is another centre, is opened up to have more tables and cellars in there. The college.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in a second, actually. Good thinking.
Like gently.
Yeah. There's been a lot more windows, so a lot more shops have opened the doors for the windows. But the college, and the college always gets involved in some way, but this year they've really got involved. On Saturday night, Yomi and Corey, who are involved with Clockwork Watch, and our two amazing creators, are doing a what do they call it? It's a live performance.
Yes.
I forgot what the actual term they use. You're going to remember now. No, you've forgotten. It's a live performance, and they're using students from the college to create this live performance. And on Saturday night, they're going to be marching through the town.
Yes, a parade.
A parade through the town, all dressed up in this Clockwork Watch gear.
The Angel Corps.
Angel Corps is arriving to Kendal. And then all heading to a pub where there's a band and a pint to have whilst you're there. Yeah. Whilst this drama's going on around you from the comic book, essentially. So they've got the students involved, which you've not done before like this, to create something like, well, making a comic live, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
So the world something so different. And that's something else that the night time, especially Saturday night, is amazing at the festival. There's so much going on this year.
I have experienced that for myself. Very nice indeed. And what I wanted to kind of touch on there with the expansion beyond the Brewery Arts Festival, Brewery Arts space, and the other spaces that are zoned, is the pairing up with other conventions from across the globe. I know that the last time I was there, you paired up with a Canadian convention, and that was really great because you brought all this Canadian talent over, which we wouldn't get the chance to see here in the UK. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to meet Stuart Immonen again, because Stuart and is it Caitlin? His other half. I don't know if I'll ever see them again, and I'm a massive fan of their work, and it's just great to have them there. Are you teaming up, or is the festival teaming up with another convention this year?
They have sort of joint collaborated with the National Cartoonist Society for NCS Fest, which is in Huntington Beach. So it's a very similar model, I believe. Yeah. We've not been over there. We don't know. It's a very similar model.
Why don't we fly you over as representatives?
I agree.
That's it. We could do a live podcast out there. It'd be fine.
So it's going to follow a similar style because, again, the conventions in the States, from what I gather, are the similar standard of conventions. So this is going to follow the lakes style, again, open areas around a town, and they're going to do it over there in a nice warm country. And obviously the caliber the guests you can get from the States without having to worry so much about traveling as much and so forth is going to be huge. So that's going on. When's that going on? May next year. So that's already linked, and there's going to be continuous links, I believe, between the two festivals going forward. So that looks exciting. So yeah, we want to go.
There you go. If Julie is watching this,
she's well aware.
There's your subtle hint, by the way. I think we can kind of wrap things up with just kind of talking about because it's not sold out. The people, you can still buy tickets. I understand.
Yeah. Passes available.
Tell us all about that then. When's it all start? When's it finish? And the general gist of how people can go.
It starts Friday morning.
It does.
And there's a special pass for Friday only, and they're sort of doing educational lectures on comics. So if you're really into comics, if you're doing a degree or whatever in comics, or you're a creator, that's well worth looking into. You know, something completely different. They always have it on, but it's not usually open to the public to get involved. It's usually professionals and so forth. So that's interesting. You've got the Friday night, which is a separate ticketed event, which is Marvel versus DC. Now, Friday nights are always a brilliant opener.
They're really good.
You'll have creators arguing over which they prefer, as well as creators drawing, live drawing at the same time. So that will be very exciting.
Raucous.
Yes. Yes. So that's single individual ticket. Now, I don't know if tickets are available for that. I couldn't say.
No, or it does get sold out.
That's sold out. If it's not sold out now, it will be.
Yeah.
It will be sold out. And then you've got your weekend passes. So off the top of my head, the weekend pass is about 35
Don't look at
English
me.
pounds.
Can't remember.
The Saturday one's about 22, and I think Sunday's 18. But that's me just guessing roughly.
Are you just picking numbers out?
That's about right. It's
Okay.
about right. It's on the website. All the details are obviously on there. Julia was meant to be here to do these sort of bits.
Oh well, yeah. She has kind of thrown you under the bus on this one.
Yeah, so that's about roughly the pricing. But the weekend pass, if you can get the whole weekend, is well worth it. Just that Saturday night.
Well, yeah, I mean, the great thing about Kendal is it does have a fantastic small brewing heritage. Lots of home brew and lots of microbreweries kicking around. So yeah, people are
even more now, actually.
Even more.
Even more.
It continues to grow.
God Almighty! Wow. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting evening. Yeah, I mean, I had this memory of a German rock comics bloke shouting at me for 45 minutes. I seem to remember that happening, which was I don't know what on earth that was all about. But that was cool. That is still very cool. It's a great convention. Like I say, I'm going to be attending on the Sunday, and I'm going to try and bring a live report from the show just as it's winding down. Yes, as the sun is setting, I'll be bringing a kind of live report.
I'm going to say sun. Yeah.
I think there's going to be sun. It's just going to be bloody cold. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to what you guys are getting up to. I mean, what is your contribution? Are you going to be running is there a live podcast happening throughout the weekend?
No, we'll be recording all weekend where we can grab people. Now, this is where we enjoy the Clock Tower because we get to spend 5 minutes with so many creators, just understanding what they're doing and what they're creating. So it gives so much content, really interesting content for people to listen to about the creators. Nikki's doing her first half-day tabling, selling her comic book as well. Saturday afternoon.
Do you have it to hand to show us?
1 second.
Oh.
Yay! While Ian's going off to run off for that, if you do want to find out more about the Comic Art Festival, do go to comicartfestival.com, and it's got all the information there.
I'm holding it on now. I don't.
Anxiety.
You can't see it. No, it's fine. You don't have. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, very nice.
So that's £3. Three for free of your English pounds.
Excellent. Excellent.
So yeah, it will be a case of trying to fit in as many interviews as we can, go to a few events, and just enjoy the weekend.
I mean, I think that's another thing that really distinguishes Lakes from any other event that takes place out there. That it's not about. I mean, that's why I was really surprised that there was a Marvel and DC thing happening on the Friday. That it doesn't really kind of. It's not just about the kind of like cape, white guys in capes punching another white guy in a cape.
It really isn't in any way.
No, it's small press. It's books from the heart, and it's. I think that's the thing that distinguishes Lakes. The people at a table there is about stories that they want to tell in this art form, and I think that's kind of it's inspiring, quite frankly.
Well, you want to create that book if you want for the festival. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It was a festival that gave you that desire to give it a go. Yeah. So that says it all, I feel.
Cool. So once again, you can find out more about the festival, and if you want to find out who the guests are, I mean, there's a couple that are just automatically jumping out at me. I mean, Frank Whiteley is always fun to spend time with. Emma Vicelli is always great. Hunt Emerson. You've got the guest list just goes on and on. It really just goes on and on. It's fantastic. Let me just see if there's anyone else that just kind of like really jumps out at me as people who I'm looking forward to catching up with. Like I said, the McGarrys, always fun. Seth, who I've never actually seen in public. That'll be interesting. So that'll be cool. Some great guests, and if you want to find out more, head to comicartfestival.com for more information. Where can people find the podcast so they can listen to you, the darling voices that you two have?
Well, thank you very much. What are you talking about there?
Yes.
Website's comicartspodcast.uk. or on Twitter, Comic Art Fest Pod, on Facebook and Instagram as well, Comic Art Podcast, and downloadable on iTunes and all your favourite devices.
I was waiting for the well-practiced advert there. I think that's
wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad.
We've got Leanne D, who's asking. Actually, this is a very good question, considering where Kendal is and its location in the town. How accessible is the city? She would love to go some year, because it is. It is a little. Well, yeah, it's a town. Yes, it's very much defined by the fact that it is a little bit out of the way.
It is, you know, northwest England, high up there, but it is just off the M6 motorway, so it's not an issue. Travel, it's on the just off the main train line.
Yeah, so you get into
up north.
Yeah, Lancaster and then across.
It's not an issue by train. So yeah, unless you want to fly in, ain't no issue at all, really. It's fairly easy to get to, and with it being in the Lake District, you've got so many hotels up this way. And really, personally, I would say don't come Friday to Sunday, come Thursday to Monday if you're going to come, and get into Lake Windermere and have a look up there at the Lake District, because it is gorgeous in its own right, you know. That alone is reason to come up this way.
I mean, I remember the year that Gail Simone came. Admittedly, it wasn't the best year for Gail, because I think she got ransacked while she was away. I think she was suffering from a cold or something. It was she did not have a great summer of it, or at least the period of it. And then she turned around and said, all of that would have been absolute nightmare for me if Kendal wasn't such a pretty part of the world. She just really had a great time wandering around the Lake District and sort of really enjoying herself. So I remember. It is a very, very pretty part of the world. So there we go. Leandy is also asking, how wheelchair friendly is the event?
Just trying to think now. There's no real issues that would stop a wheelchair user at all.
There's lifts in everywhere.
There's lifts in the brewery, which is obviously the main place to go for your talks. The town hall,
I think it's got a lift.
I'm sure that's got a lift. I can't fully say it's perfect. No. But I don't think you'd have any real issues. I think you'd get to majority of the things you wanted to see would be available.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because venues, aren't they? So
it's all different venues. So but yeah, no, I think from what I'm thinking off the top of my head, no real issue at all.
Yeah.
Good question.
So come along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only part of the festival which would be slightly difficult to get to would be the Shakespeare.
I was just thinking that Cobbles.
That's true.
And then it's steps, isn't it? So yeah, that would be the only one, unless there's a.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. No. We'd have to check on that one.
We'd have to get everyone outside to see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell you what, the Shakespeare, you have exactly 4 days to get yourself wheelchair friendly. Come on, start using some of that Art Council money, and come on, sort yourself out, man. Come on. So there you go. That's that. So there we go. Omar Hassan, I was going to say, I don't think that's what she meant by accessible. Okay, well, okay. Okay, yeah, there you go. Right, so there you go. I'm looking forward to Sunday. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I would just want to say thank you very much, Dee, for coming on and telling us about the show. And looking forward to seeing you on the Sunday at some point, even if it's just across the room, to kind of like wave at a distance while you're hobnobbing with some comic talent, and I'm just kind of loitering around like a loser. But what else is new? So there we go. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And look at that, 41 minutes past. Plenty of time to get in front of the telly and watch Doctor Who. That's great. Nikki, hope you feel better soon as well.
Thank you very much. I'm trying really hard not to sniff. I was like, I've got to breathe through my mouth now.
Dear Lord. Excellent stuff. Guys, take care, and I will see you next weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent stuff. So there you go. That is Ian and Nikki. Once again, do check out their podcast as well. It is a lot of fun to listen to. They get some great guests on, and as you can tell, they're just really personable and a great way to listen to. They're a good bunch. Right, so yes, it is nearly time for Doctor Who, and I know that people are going to wander off. So we're going to make the next bits a little bit quicker. Not only that, but the sun has pretty much disappeared. I usually have a light on, and I haven't had the chance to go and turn the light on. So it's a little bit dark and gloomy now. It's turning very much into a Halloween mood with the low lighting at the moment. So bear with me on that one. Right, so let's quickly talk about next weekend, because it is going to be the pre-registration badge sale for San Diego Comic Con. As always, this is something which there's going to be a lot of interest in, and it's going to be a lot of scrabbling around to get those badges, especially if you are wanting to return for 2019. But at the end of the day, these are the things that you need to do. It is a small quantity of badges, a small percentage, which I think was determined as something like 10% of the badges that are allocated for pre-registration. But it is something that is required if you are wanting to go back. Otherwise, you are going to have to go in with the Grand Malay either at the very end of this year, beginning of next. Now, at this point, I'm going to kind of open it up to you guys, because I do want to say if there's anything that you want to ask, or if there's anything you want to bring up, because the process that they're going to be using is incredibly similar. Well, it is exactly the same as what we've had in previous years. We're having the waiting room. It's a virtual waiting room in which you launch into the waiting room 1 hour prior to the actual sale starting, which is at 6 o'clock here in the UK, I believe. Oh no, it's 5 o'clock here in the UK. Get it right. So it's midday Eastern time. I believe it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Karen's session, I thought it was 50%. It's not that high. It really is not that high, not for pre-registration. Let's have a look. Leanne D. Oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be participating. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think Andrew's disappearing. He's I think he's off to see. Yeah, he's watching Doctor Who. He's going to disappear. So we're going to disappear, do that. So yeah, it really is a case of working out the best way to actually get that space inside of the waiting room. And as always, the best recommendation that I can give is a badge team. It's a way of gaming the system to some degree, in that a team of maybe 3 or 4 people would be applying for a slot inside of the waiting room, at which point whoever does get in would then buy for the rest of their team. I say 3 or 4 because I have known people that are not returning in 2019 who do have an active member ID, which is valid for the badge sale, to apply, and at which point they help out the ones that are wanting to take part. So let's have a look, see here. Karen's session, that's a change from the past. I'm guessing you're still talking about the 50%. As far as I'm aware, it's not that high. They do try and make it more for the people who are taking part in the open registration. So let's have a look. I think I may have to cut this short because I've just had a message from the other half. I think I may need to disappear from this sooner rather than later, I'm afraid. Right, but it does take part next week. It's like I say, you have an hour lead up towards the actual opening up of the actual sales, which are randomly selected from those people who are inside the waiting room. It's as far as we're aware, it's done completely at random. It's not done with any preference to when you signed into the waiting room, what browser you're using, where you are in the UK. It is a random allocation when they open up the doors at the, I believe it's 9 a.m. Pacific, midday Eastern, and 5 p.m. here in the UK. Let's have a look. Leanne D, it's always been less than 20%. Yeah. Karen's session, at one talkback, they indicated about 50,000 badges. I would have to see that talkback because as far as I'm aware, John Rogers has never ever turned around and said numbers at a talkback. He's one of those people that will actively refuses to talk numbers. So if you can find that, Karen, I'd like to see that if possible. So there you go. Omar Hassa, log in an hour early and wait. Sacrifice farm animals to a demonic presence, and that's how pre-reg works. Yeah, I see how that one goes. check with the unofficial blog. That's a source that is at the end of the day guessing, because they are working on the same kind of figures that we are. They don't have any official contact with John Rogers, and the CCI have been actively stating that they will not reveal any of those numbers. I've tried on numerous occasions, even talking to a number of committee members about those kind of figures, and they just won't reveal them. Even inside the own CCI administration, they keep those numbers incredibly close to hand. So if you can, Karen, if you can check and you get those details, by all means, I'd like to see that. Right, okay, I'm going to disappear now because I am getting several messages now saying that I do need to make a vanish. What I'm probably going to do then is a pre-registration incidental episode of the podcast, and I'll do that in the next couple of days, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, where we talk about preparing for the show. If we can get those details from Karen as well and from other sources about how many badges we're talking about, we'll talk about best processes. We'll talk about all of that. I'm also being told that I will not be joined by someone who's going to be coming from New York Comic Con, so we can't talk about that. However, we are going to be putting some posts up on the conventioncollective.com for all the things that have been happening over this weekend. Unfortunately, we are going to cut this short because, like I say, Doctor Who's just starting, and I know people are off to see that, and I'm also getting some messages as well. So I'm going to disappear. Slightly truncated show, and I apologize for that, but hope you enjoyed our interview with Ian and Nikki. I will be bringing you a live recap episode from Lakes in Kendal next Sunday. Hopefully you can join us for that. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. We'll also be looking at the aftermath of the pre-registration badge sale. I'm not expecting too much in terms of any hiccups or any issues, because for the last couple of years, it really has been a pretty seamless setup. How that may change for open registration is going to be interesting, because they have been wanting to do something different and apply it to the member IDs and do it within the member ID pages. They wanted to do that last year, which is the reason why the badge sale was late, because of technical issues with making that work. So at the end of the day, this may be the year, 2018, 2019, where they actually solve those problems and do the open badge registration in-house on the member ID, very similar to how they sell badges for WonderCon. So who knows? Right, thank you very much indeed. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Go off, watch Doctor Who. Keep your eye on your notifications if you are subscribed to us on YouTube. It will let you know when we go live Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll also do a bit of a post just to kind of warn you that that's happening, where we are going to be talking pre-registration and also the recap of New York Comic Con as well. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For myself, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.